we're going to turn it over now. We appreciate all of you coming out. We're going to turn it over in the hands of our very capable city clerk.
This is the pre-meeting of the Mobile City Council, Tuesday, July 7th. We have approval of minutes from June the 30th.
Good job.
Thank you so much.
Okay. So we're down to presentation of petitions and other communications to the council. Brendan Cam Jackson regarding lack of resources to find white-collar job internship opportunities for young college-educated adults in Mobile. Reggie Hill regarding ordinance 39019, letters that he's received from the council and members of Mobile Commission, and any other items on the agenda with unique relevance. Velma Dale Jackson regarding Black Lives Matter policemen in Mobile. Ordinance is held over. 02.
Hold on.
Pretty well.
Yeah.
Ms. Richardson?
Mr. President, is that city business? Black Lives Matter?
Well, policemen in Mobile is, but
Oh,
I mean, that's,
President Mobile is, but Black Lives Matter is not.
well, that's up to you. I don't know that she's necessarily talking about the organization or just that Black Lives Matter.
But the point I'm saying to our president is that,
Ms. Richardson, we can't hear what you're saying. I'm
is
sorry.
that, the point I'm trying to make is that Black Lives Matter is not city business.
Oh, it's not?
Black Lives Matter? How is that?
It's a group in our city, isn't it? Not
I
city
mean,
business.
we don't give them no instruction. No, listen,
Can you
let's
read
move-
the
let's
agenda
move
item
on.
again, Madam City Clerk? I'm having a little trouble hearing you too, if you don't.
Okay.
I don't think my, turn me,
Velma Dale Jackson is here. Her subject matter is Black Lives Matter and policemen in Mobile.
see, I'm tapping it.
She's gonna be close enough.
Yeah, you're gonna have to do that.
But if she deviate any way from Black Lives Matter, we gonna line her back up. Yeah. I think we can go on, Madam City Clerk.
Ordinance is held over. 02015, ordinance eliminating and replacing the word race on City of Mobile official forms and documents. Everyone has received the updated version, right?
Yeah, Mr. President, if I
Yes, ma'am.
might, let's see, I need to go back to we had a committee meeting some time ago about this and went through multiple forms that the city uses and discovered that all of the forms that the city uses that are worded with race have a reason for doing it, and it is because the information that is collected has to be sent to the state and federal government, and that's the way they collect it, and that's the way they want it sent to them. So we went through all of the forms and realized that there really weren't any forms that we could change. The other thing that we did see was that at least one department, we saw Parks and Recreation, had forms that had ethnicity already included. And Jim, if I'm correct, did it also have race and ethnicity, or was it just
Both.
ethnicity? It had both.
Has to have both.
Yeah, both. So in that respect, I'm not sure that there are any forms that we have to change. Unless we could say something about going forward where applicable, like Parks and Rec or other departments that might have some sort of form that we did not see. You know, as long as it is not something that the state or federal government requires, you know, specific ways of collecting information.
Mr. President?
Mr. Richardson?
Yes. We assigned this task to our attorney, who got with the administration to come up with language that would fit for what we're trying to accomplish. And if you go to section 1 on the second page of what I sent to you all on race, and go to section 1, it says the word race as pertaining to citizens' ethnicity will no longer divide our citizens and will disappear and be removed from any and all official forms of the city of Mobile, except, this is the part that they worked on, except as may be required by state or federal law, rule, regulations, or requirements. And the word race on such forms as pertain to the various and sundry citizens shall henceforth be substituted with the word ethnicity on future printings of various and such forms which reflect the origin, history, and heritage of one's past ancestors. That's what was worked out.
Mr. Manzi,
Yes, ma'am.
if I could comment. I was a member of the committee, and we gave it a good look, more than a look. We asked for every form that the city has as far as incorporating the word race. And there was not one form that we were able to say it was information that wasn't required, because of the other agencies that ask for this information, that give us grants, make sure we're functioning appropriately by demographics. I mean, public safety was adamant about needing it in there for review and information. So I really understand, well, I shouldn't say I understand. I believe that the request of Councilman Richardson had merit, and if we would have discovered something, I think we could apply this. But right now, there's nothing to apply it to. So I don't understand how we're going to move forward with something that is not under our realm at all. We talked about the courts, but the courts, that's a separation of power. So I don't see us telling them how to do their forms any more than they would tell us how to do forms. I mean, that's two different branches of government. And there was some interest in trying to keep up with the sensitivity that Mr. Richardson was looking for. But to me, to have an ordinance that really does not accomplish anything doesn't really sit well, at least with me, at this point. And we could maybe put a note that we want to review in the future, but there's just no need to do that based on the information that must be collected. And we can't get around that. So you can say all this in section 1, but there's nothing that will make that happen. So I just can't support it. And I really did look and listen very carefully at that committee meeting. It was very sincere about it. Thank
I
you.
disagree. Mr. President,
Yes, sir.
I think section 1 is clear. Is that when it comes down to the federal and state governments, where they need whatever they need, this ordinance would not have anything to do with that. It would have nothing to do with what we have to report to the federal government. But in instances where we don't have to report it, and with the new forms, we would substitute race with ethnicity, with the new forms that we print, where it doesn't pertain to the federal government or the state government. This is what he's saying. I don't see how that could be complicated. I don't see why we are trying to struggle to keep race on these forms when we don't collect race on nobody but black people and white people. All the other ethnicities in this city, we don't collect no race on them. We only collect race on black people and white people. It seems like we don't want to give it up. Because what this ordinance is alleging, that a person's race is essentially, it defines essentially who they are. My color does not define who I are. They got dogs my color. They got hogs my color. They have cows my color. My color does not define me. My function defines me. Race has to do with my function, what I can do. No bears are in a race. They're a species. They're not in a race. Only humans are in the race, and they're all in the same race. But in the city of Mobile, they have divided it up. That I want people in the black race to put this down, and I want the folks in the white race, that day has come and gone for that. We know better than that. We're all in the same race. But if there's a federal law and they want to know, give them what they want. That doesn't mean that we have to keep on putting that on our forms. If I'm going to have to put down the color of my skin, then everybody you arrest, put down the color of their skin. I don't care if you're from Bangladesh, Israel, I don't care what part of the world you're from. Put the color of your skin down, I'll leave my color alone. It's illegal that you selected two groups of people to have them to put down the color of their skin, that we're not putting it on anybody else. And if you don't know the reason for that, it wasn't started about the folks that's here. It was started in 1702. If you don't know the reason for it, I'll tell you. To figure out how we're going to treat them. Are they getting ahead of us? Keep a record of what they're doing. We ain't worried about nobody else, but we're worried about them. If the ancestors came from Africa, keep a record on them, so we'll know how to treat them. That's why they're marching all over this nation, because we all need to be treated the same. And we have this unique opportunity today. We have this opportunity to bury this foolishness. Mayor Stimson came on board saying one Mobile. How can it be one Mobile and I have to put down my race as black, and another person best can put her race down as white, and we one Mobile, and we're in the same race? Other than have children, there ain't nothing Beth can do that I can't do. I ain't tell you that right now. I can't have no children, but beyond that, our function determines who we are. I can perform the same function as any other man. And I shouldn't have to list myself differently from nobody else. If not now, when? If not us, who? How long are we going to carry this? Our ancestors put this albatross around our necks. We have a chance to take it off.
I think if I could comment.
Anything else, Mr. Richardson?
I would say that I hope we can get this passed today. We laid it over for 2 weeks for one thing, for the administration and our attorney to work out the language. They worked it out. I hope this passed today. Madam Clerk, I'm serving a notice now. Should this ordinance not pass, I want it on the agenda every week until I leave this council. Every week. You don't have to check in with me. I'm telling you now. I want it back on this agenda every week until I'm no longer on the council.
You heard that, Madam Clerk. Yes, ma'am.
Mr. President,
Ms. Gregory?
Colonel DeLapp, I know on the and correct me if I'm wrong, on the Parks and Recreation forms, they have both on there. They have race and then they have ethnicity. So if I recall correctly, that's mirroring the census forms?
Correct. Well, the federal government, as you know, on the census and most all of their things have race and ethnicity are two different categories that have different elements. So, and that was defined by Mr. Roberts, Jamie Roberts, when he came down and talked to that. By substituting one, as Mr. Richardson pointed out, I think that would create challenges because you're not addressing the things that are required, as you know, on those forms that we need to submit higher for other grants and other information that either the state or federal government require. And that's what we talked about. I'm not sure how many forms beyond the ones that we've provided are only for the city that it asked for that information. It seemed like very few. Most all of ours are shared otherwise.
Correct.
To a higher element,
Yeah.
and feed information into, maybe not at that specific time, but later are fed into stuff where we have to provide that kind of data.
Okay, so Parks and Recreation, their forms would still be applicable if this passes?
Right. Yeah, there would be, I think we just wanted to make sure there was one little error they had in theirs that we just would want to correct, but other than that, it would stay effectively the same.
Okay, and I had sent an email to Ricardo, and I don't see him here, just to make sure that what Mr. Arledge had sent was okay with the administration, that y'all were all right with this ordinance as worded, because I know we were trying to work together, especially in conjunction with the new DBE guidelines. I never heard anything back. I mean, Mayor, Paul, do y'all have any? Oh, Jamie, are you going to?
Yes, Ricardo and I were working on it together. It'd be fine with all the stuff we work on with federal and state grants.
So this ordinance as written with all city forms going forward is okay with the administration?
I think
Not
so.
just in your
It's-
world, but everything else?
Yeah, with Ricardo, he was okay with it as far as I know. We looked at it and.
What does it do exactly?
It's more forward-looking, so any document that would come out that's not related to a federal or state grant wouldn't be allowed to have race as a descriptor on the form or document.
Okay, can you give an example of a form that's out there today? That's,
I think the discussion during the committee was more the court system.
But we don't dictate
and
to
I
the
don't think that's pertaining to this. It's I don't think we have any forms that would fall into it right now, but it would be something that would restrict in the future of any potential forms.
and we're under the Civil Rights Act, and a lot of that makes it that you have to perform certain behavior patterns and information. So I know that my council member who wants to see this up over and over until he gets something that moves forward. And I think his press needs to be starting with the federal government to do away with the Civil Rights Act.
And we discussed
And they
that.
just added a whole nother special class.
Right. We've discussed
You might
that.
want to look at our forms for that.
What this would do would give him a basis to go to the federal government to discuss the topic, really. But it wouldn't affect any of our day-to-day activity related to
Right,
federal and state
and
government.
I wouldn't want to make city employees have to do, two different forms and figure out, that this information brings in this stuff, but I still need that. I mean, we're making it difficult.
It's, as far as the administrative part, there's nothing to change. It's, like I said, it's a forward-looking thing to restrict any future. The actual administrative tasks wouldn't change at all. I believe your forms would fit under, because you're anticipating reporting to the federal government.
Correct.
So they would be exempted also.
So, well, okay, I still have my opinion about doing an ordinance that really doesn't really have any teeth. That's basically it. We're making a premise that it's to do away with something that, until there's major changes on the landscape.
Right. So this it's very obvious going through all the forms that somebody between Civil Rights Act and now went through and cleaned off a lot of the forms that didn't need it. This will just formalize that process, I guess.
It was supposed to, the Civil Rights Act was supposed to level the playing field, not call people out and make them a special jurisdiction of people that can't get things accomplished. It helped people get things accomplished. and made sure that cities didn't color outside of the lines by virtue of avoiding reporting this information that is critical to a city's function. Okay.
Mr. President,
Mr. Richardson?
if Ms. Rich is through, are you through?
We can't hear you, Mr. Richardson.
I'm trying to see what's best through.
Ms. Rich, are you?
Yes, I'm
finished
done.
with your- Mr. Richardson?
Finished.
I've said it before, numerous of times. We are outside of the line because people from other countries do not have to list their race. We are outside of the line. We are aiming at two classes of people, not two races, two classes of people who are all in the same race. And we're just aiming at the skin color. If you're from India, you can be this color here, from India. You do not have to put your race down. If you're of African origin, you've got to put the race down. The time has come for us to drop that. And I foresee in the very near future, it will be dropped nationwide. When I travel across the world, when I get to other countries and they give me my forms to fill out as I enter that country, I have never seen race on any form. I'm heading back to my own country, and they put the forms in give me the forms to get back to my own country. What's your race? On the immigration form. What's your race? No other country in the world. As a matter of fact, I had the city clerk to call England. So she called London to find out, did they categorize their citizens according to race? The answer was no. Then I want to go to a different part of the world. I had to call Mexico. No. It's America. It's a vestige of slavery. It was to justify slavery. That's how we got put in those categories, to justify slavery. Otherwise, they ought to be glad that we have them over here, because if we left them in Africa, they would be eating each other, killing each other. It's a bunch of foolishness. And they don't really have the ability to learn like other people. They're ignorant, and we are doing the best we can with them. So they divided up the races, brown, black, white, and on. Really, they weren't concerned about nobody but people from Africa and white people. We have gotten way past that. But we are still acting as though it's 1865. So we have heard from the administration, they don't have no problems with it. Whatever council member have a problem with it, vote your conscience.
Any further discussion from members of the council? Mr. Vice President, was anything, Ms. Gregory? Mr. Davis? Just making certain, okay. All right. Madam City Clerk?
Ordinance 14018, ordinance to amend Chapter 14-10 of the City Code to provide for socially and economically disadvantaged business, contractor, and individual participation.
Mr. President,
Mr. Vice President?
yeah, I still have a couple questions on this one. I know I had asked the administration last week, but I want to just get a little bit more information about the individual participation. And also, when I was reading the ordinance, it was talking about that the mayor can establish an office, just trying to just get a little bit more information on that, to administrate the provision of this, of these sections.
That's fine. If we could, well, we got the A team coming up, and look forward to hearing you all's presentation. It may well still be assigned to committee, because I have some questions myself, but I'm certainly going to listen to your presentation.
What was the first part of your question again, Councilor Small?
Yeah, thank you. The individual participation, we're seeing that it's saying disadvantaged business contractor and individual participation. What is individual participation mean?
Say it again. What?
I'm sorry, individual
Okay.
participation, I'm sorry.
Yes, individual participation, it's a business owner themselves qualifying, or the personnel they hire. So the HUD Section 3 definition is related to business owners and personnel. And that's why we're trying to add that as part of the definition. Right now, socially and disadvantaged business is not defined, and that's why we have issues like a couple weeks ago, we're trying to figure out who does qualify, who doesn't. This will clarify all of that, hopefully. But adding Section 3 allows the companies to hire low to moderate income individuals and qualify that way by having I believe it's a third of their workforce that are low to moderate income individuals.
So the individual participation, I mean, it's anybody, correct?
Yeah.
And the office,
Yeah, the office part, right now, the city ordinance says a consultant will be hired. The mayor, a long time ago, hired a full-time staff member, so that's just clarifying that with Archneek's position.
you said one will be hired?
No, it's Archneek's position.
Oh, okay.
She's already here. We're actually going to hire an additional person to help her, but it's her office we're talking about in that.
Oh, okay. So that person would come through the personnel board or
It's likely to be grant funded, so it'd be appointed.
appointed? Okay.
Even though it's a department? Are we making it a department?
No, it's an office within a department. She's in purchasing now. Yeah, she's in procurement. Yeah, procurement. Sorry. Hold on.
I'm good, Mr. Burns.
Of what our goal is here, and I see so much firepower standing in front of me that I want to hear from everybody. Share your perspective as to how this will further the goal of providing for socially and economically developed businesses in our city to participate in city businesses. Can you just give me an overview of exactly what this will do?
Yeah, I'll let Archneek do that in a second.
Sure.
Okay, go ahead.
Let me give you a little context. So we have been speaking with businesses, small businesses, disadvantaged businesses for the past couple of weeks, and two things that they wanted to see is, one, to clean up the language of this ordinance, and two, to help businesses in underrepresented communities. And so this amendment actually cleans up the language specifically to go along with what SBA guidelines, a federal requirement and guidelines are. And then it adds a second piece that wasn't in there, which is the Section 3 businesses to help build the capacity of underrepresented communities. But it also takes a second step and it adds underrepresented workers, so Section 3 workers. So now Archneek will have the capacity to get people who live in underrepresented communities into a pool. So when contractors are looking for workers, they can qualify those workers through our Section 3 program.
Let me ask you, does this ordinance, and this will be pivotal to my thinking on it, does this ordinance increase or have any dialogue relative to the antiquated 15% that businesses currently have built into the city's procurement process?
No, that actually is a state and federal guideline that we're
No,
looking
we
at.
passed that locally,
But it's set based on a state and federal guideline, 15%.
not the 15%.
15% is referenced in both state and federal guidelines. So if we go beyond that, we're at risk of legal issues.
Well, I have heard different from that from legal counsel.
So
Let me hear from you. Yes, ma'am.
in my 20 years of doing this, with the federal guidelines And this comes from me attending the American Contract Compliance Association's workshops, which discusses all of the compliances for federal funds that are turned in or that are administered to city government. The way that they calculate the percentage on what's done on a particular project or how you get to a percentage, the proper way to do it, which is told to me by them, is that you have to look at the number of businesses that you have registered in your pool. They also have to be certified, which is why we're putting the extra guidelines in with the certifications, so that we can have those pools and make sure that those pools are increased. It's not enough, according to the federal government, if your population is a certain makeup. You have to show that the population of businesses warrant that increase. So this is what we're trying to do here with the certifications and getting those businesses in and getting them certified, so that at that point, we can show that we do have that pool of businesses.
Ms. Kidd, I'm not refuting anything that you said. All I'm saying is that as it relates to socially and economically disadvantaged businesses, there are cities across this country that have far greater percentages than 15%.
You are absolutely
We're
correct.
at 15%. So this notion that just was presented to me, that there's some federal standard and everybody, Atlanta, Birmingham, Charlotte, New Orleans, everybody's at 15%, I'm not buying that.
No, they're not at 15%.
Well,
That's not what I'm
all
saying.
I was saying. All I'm saying is the city leaders back in 1985, 84, whenever they put together the roadmap that we're traveling on now as relates to DBEs, came to an arbitrary number. Not that we were going to say it was it was etched in stone, but it was a guide map that at this point we want to try to ensure and make a best faith effort at 15%. Would you agree with my assessment?
I agree with your assessment.
And all I'm saying is, and I pretty well have made up my mind that we're gonna take this to committee. Because all I'm saying is if we're gonna drive down this road dealing with socially and economically disadvantaged businesses, I believe that percentage needs to be a part of the discussion. If we're not having that discussion, even as a good faith effort, I believe we're not having all of the discussion that's merited at this point, and that's all I'm saying.
So in your scenario, this would be step one of that scenario of proving the 15% is the minimum. The study hasn't been done yet, so we can't prove that. And you have to codify this ordinance to get to that next step if you're going that way.
Why is that?
Because you have to have a baseline.
I'm saying,
It's all to cover a legal parameter.
Mr. President,
Ms. Gregory?
just to clarify, so you're saying this will be just a baseline, but because we are doing this, cleaning up the language and doing what we can to increase the numbers of certified businesses, then that will qualify us then to go to a higher percentage?
If it's shown to have capacity. If it's not, then the 15% maintains.
Because you're saying if there are not enough businesses, then you couldn't make it higher? Is that what you're
Right,
saying?
and that's yet to be determined because the study hasn't been done because there's not the ordinance and all the structure in place.
I know that the ordinance says at least 15%, so it's already contemplated that it can be over that.
Right.
Yeah,
Right,
but
but
if we are on certain projects, if we are able to do greater than 15%, there's nothing stopping us from doing that. This
Right,
is
and
just
that'd be what Arsenic looks at based on the study
Yeah.
and the capacity of whatever field happens to be getting contracted at that point.
But the hope is that we can get more qualified and certified so that then we could officially raise the percentage.
Right, and the reason for including Section 3 is so that you have the workforce that gets trained to eventually become entrepreneurs, to own their own company, to venture out to start bidding, and then it builds the capacity within the city.
Well,
Are you,
that makes
can I ask a
sense.
question?
Ms. Ms. Rich, I'm
Thank
sorry.
you. Are you able to
Wait,
look
wait,
at the
no,
type
I-
project and the number of businesses that fall?
Say it again, sorry.
I'm sorry, you weren't done?
No, I'm finished. That's
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Are you able to look at the type of contract and then the number of contractors that would fit, and you could change the percentage at that point? Like, in other words, we only have so many that resurface as opposed to do sidewalk work or whatever.
Right. It's going to be based again on the study. Each individual, contract is too minute to look at. It'd be based on the capacity of a field. So, concrete work may be the thing we're looking at, or housing construction, street repaving, that kind of thing. And in those instances, what we're looking at by adding the Section 3 piece again is when there's not capacity, we try to get them to hire low-mod income workers so that we can build the capacity within the city.
Just generally speaking, just, in a lot of contracts, you generally won't get down into sub-trades. It will typically be professional services like AE, construction. There'll be larger groups. You're not going to get down to framing or concrete work or electrical, in those sub-trades. It's broadly would be in construction, AE, et cetera, unless there was a specific task or trade that we were going after, and then we might look at that as well. And that's consistent with how most of the other agencies do it as well.
And Section 3 has a subcontract piece also, so they can qualify based on workforce or who they subcontract to.
Mr. President?
Mr. Richardson?
Yes. This is for Ms. Kidd. Can you tell us the approximate number of minority contractors or disadvantaged contractors that's on your list?
Currently, right now, we have right at 300, but they vary across the spectrum. They're not just contractors. We also have some service providers.
Right.
You may have some office supply
I
companies.
understand. Mr. President, I think 300 is enough to get the job done. I feel just like you, we need to up that list from 15%. I think we need to start looking at going higher than 15%. And we've already said that unless the contract is $200,000, we can't give them anything anyway. So I think we need to drop all of that, because we see a lot of them for, almost $200,000. And we don't have to do anything. So I think we need to up that. We need to do what we can do to help those people that's already been certified as disadvantaged. We need to help. It's in the Zogby Act. We need to do what we can.
Ms.
Mr.
Henderson,
President?
did you have anything else?
We have to get through step one first. We've got to build our capacity. And so through this Section 3, those underserved businesses and underserved workers, we hope that they will be certified so that they will become entrepreneurs, so that we can come back to the table with the 15%, but we have to build the capacity first. So this is just the first step.
Mr. President? Oh,
Yes. Mr. Vice President?
So how long was this study would take? I mean, this is 6 months, a year?
Depending on the data that they have to get, and a lot of it's internal city information, past bidding history and what the capacity was already. The market here is not large, so they have to dig down into census information a lot deeper than most other cities would that are larger. You're looking at 60 to 180 days. Just depends on how much detail they get into and where they find it.
Between 60 and 100 days. My question is that when you doing this study, how would you, there's like a media blast going to go out that you're looking for certain people, or how is
Talking
that
about
going to be
for
done?
the group doing the study or the individuals identified in the study, which,
Both.
it'd be an RFP that's already been worked on by Arshnik for the group doing the study, and she's looking at national groups that have done this other places. The individuals that are identified in the study, those will be research, it'd be talking to existing bidders and contractors who we deal with regularly also.
Mr. President,
Mr. Richardson?
I would like to again ask Ms. Kidd, do you have an approximate number of contractors on the majority contractors list?
Do I have an exact number?
Approximate number, estimation?
Approximately, that are DBE or that are
No.
just prime?
Just contractors.
Just contractors? I'm gonna roughly say between 20 and 30, and that will span across the board that works with both A&E and engineering.
Well, my point is you got 300 on the disadvantaged list. You got 20 or 30 on the.
And that's its primes. There are some.
I wouldn't care if they're prime, mine, or Heim. I'm saying you got 20 on the majority contractors list, you got 300 on the minority contractors list, and we need to conduct a study to see where they are. This is what the law says. The law says as much as possible we'll do that. Other words, if you bid a contract off and there are no minority or disadvantaged contractors, then the main contractor keep on rolling. That's what the law says. So we're not going to harm ourselves for fear that we might not be able to get anybody. If we did that, we may, the law already got that covered. If you can't get anybody, you roll on. But where you can get somebody, you will get somebody. If you can't get nobody, you don't have to get anybody.
Again,
So I don't think we need to tailor ours, say we got to have all of the I's dotted, you got to cross every T and all of that before we can do it. We don't have to do that. Because if we don't have anybody ready, then whoever got the original bid can keep on going.
The issue is going to be, again, with the capacity. The market cap for those larger non-DBE companies is much larger than 300 DBE companies. And that's what we're looking at, is capacity per project.
I believe we have the capacity. If you look at what we are bidding off, I think we have at least three contractors on the agenda today worth more than $1 million. So I'm saying we just keep on going, and we said we let's 15% is what we got down here. We need at some point that was 1985. We need to look at changing that. Mr. President, we can't leave that at no 15%. And if the prime contractors don't want to bid, don't bid. If you think that's not good for you, then don't bid.
Mr. President,
Ms. Gregory?
just one other question. As you're doing the study, and I heard you mention pools and things like that, would you be looking, obviously not just at companies that are currently doing business with the city, because I think the goal is to increase the size of the, pool that we have to choose from, but would you also be looking at individuals who maybe specialize in a certain sort of work that you could pool together with others in order to increase the size of the DBE participation that we have? If maybe there's not one company, but you could pool together certain individuals who have certain skills. I'm just looking at ways that we can increase the capacity for our DBEs, if that's what you're looking at.
So yes, ma'am, joint ventures are something that we look at as well, and that is something that they can qualify as.
Yeah, and currently, we do go above 15% when possible, because I know we had the issue a couple of weeks ago when the company wasn't certified, and we went through all of that. The city already uses companies that are not certified, but going through this study and this process will then help get all these other companies certified that need to be in order to qualify them for more work. Am I understanding this correctly?
That's correct.
I guess, Ms. Gregory.
And she looked at all of the ones we currently have, and we wouldn't lose any of those. They
We
all
wouldn't lose
qualify. Yeah,
any.
they just need to get certified through the process.
Right. The goal, of course, is to increase the size of the groups that we are able to, or the pool that we're able to choose from.
The other thing is, just to Ms. Gregory's point, I've recently linked up Archanique with the U.S. Army Corps' small business representative, who has their own list as well, typically larger contracts, but to share information with those in an attempt to get some of those folks informed about what the city's doing and what opportunities exist within the city, so they can effectively share lists and create and continue to build that capacity. Because ideally, you get someone who maybe can start at a city project and work their way up to a state or federal project in a larger scale.
Right, that's probably what the issue is, that there are a lot of companies out there doing work throughout the city. They just may not be doing work with the city and are not certified as a DBE to do work with the city. It's not that there may not be enough companies that could fit the category. We're just not working with them, or they may not know about working with us, vice versa, and we need to, educate the public, as Mr. Small was saying, to get them on board.
Mr. President,
Yes, sir?
Yeah, I do understand what the administration is saying, and also understand what you're saying also about you would like to see more than 15%. And I do agree that we might need to discuss this further. And I understand that your goal is to get more than 15%, but all our goals should be to make many minorities a prime on contracts. That should be our goal too. And I think we need to look further at a committee meeting to discuss, really the future of how we're going to go, where we're going to go, and et cetera from that. Because, I'm agreeing with you that we should have more than 15%, but I'm also in agreement that we should have minorities as prime contractors.
Mr. Vice President, I don't disagree with that sentiment at all. I believe that this is a good effort. I'm not knocking this effort at all. I want it to be known. This is not me knocking what's before me. This is me saying that there's another level to it that we could add to supplement what is a very good intentioned ordinance here. And I'm appreciative of the mayor putting this on the agenda. I'm appreciative of all the work that Ms. Henderson and Ms. Kidd and Mr. Roberts have exhibited in bringing this forward. And we just want to see if we can take it. I get what you're saying. What the part I'm not connecting is why we have to pass this ordinance now without having the committee meeting in order to move forward with the study. Because wouldn't the study, the contract for the study eventually be on this agenda as well?
Yeah, so our anticipation, if you'd pass it today, would have the RFP out for the study Sunday. We'd set it to publish tomorrow.
Well, let me, I know it'll go to 2A committee, I don't know which one yet, but we'll have it between now and 10:30, and we'll ask that they would expedite that meeting so that we won't hold it up any longer than we need to.
Mr. President,
Mr. Davis?
I don't see any reason why we can't go ahead and pass this today and then have the meetings you're talking about, and if necessary, amend it later on down the road. I don't see why we have to hold this up in order to have these committee meetings.
Well, I've had two members of the council make their request. The same matter I held, the matter you wanted up 2 weeks ago, and send it to committee at your request. So we can do it it's the same matter, it's the same difference, Mr. Davis.
I'm sorry, do we have to approve this in order to start the study? Do we need to approve this for you to start the study?
I believe so, yes.
So you can't start the study until we approve this?
Right, we don't want to waste city funds towards doing publications and contracting work without knowing that it's a thing coming.
What?
And I think we'd be okay with,
So in
Councilman
that
Davis'
respect, it
suggestion.
would be wise to go ahead and approve this and then do the study, and once the study comes back, then we'll know, we can raise it to 18, 20%, 25,
right, and that's what I was
whatever.
saying, this could be phase one if that's what you guys
Yeah,
intend to do.
just
It's-
phase
The
one.
study will identify the
My
capacity
point-
for each
my
field.
point exactly.
Right.
This could be phase one.
It could be phase one, Mr. Davis. I'm going back to the same standard that you gave me 2 weeks ago when you made the request to send an item to committee. Off of just your request, I assigned it to committee. And it went to committee.
If it's your desire to delay the start of the study, then that's fine.
No, let's not frame it that
That's
way.
exactly
No,
what you're
sir.
saying.
It's my desire to make sure that the study is all encompassing. So we don't have to just take one step. We can take as many steps as we need to take. Because the step that's been in place now has been there for 34 years. So surely we can wait 2 more weeks. That's my desire. So let's not play that game today, Mr. Davis. Posturing it as if I'm trying to hold up progress, when this is something I've been trying to push since I've been here. And if we're gonna, you're gonna make the request for items that you're concerned about, then I ought to have the same ability. Anybody else ought to have
I'm
the
not
same
arguing with
ability.
your ability.
That's what you're implying, that I'm holding up progress.
Mr. President,
Mr. Vice President?
yeah, at the meeting, I would like to request too that we can have the Mobile Chamber Commerce, I guess Dara is over the minority section business over that, and also the Black Chamber also be invited to that committee meeting also. And yeah, I request those 2 things.
I don't have one issue with that, Mr. Vice President. And this will be ready for committee at 10:30. Thank you all so much. Madam City Clerk?
39020, ordinance to amend the city's general noise ordinance to add peaceful protest, demonstration, and rallies as an exception.
Mr. President,
Mr. Davis?
I'd like to ask the administration if they have an opinion on this. I have heard from some, at least one individual, that it would make enforcing the noise ordinance downtown more difficult. And I'd like to get an opinion on that.
I think that we should have our attorney, Ricardo Woods, weigh in, to look at it since it's an ordinance, and he'll be here for the main meeting, for the city council meeting, and we'll make a remark at that time.
Thank you.
Mr. President,
Mr. Richardson?
if we look at what is proposed, it's taken out of what's on our agenda, it's taken out of Section 3996 of the current noise ordinance. And it reads, it shall be unlawful for any person to play, use or operate or permit to be played, use or operate any radio, tape player, cassette player, compact disc player, or other machines or devices for reproducing sound in or on any public property, including any public street, road, building, sidewalk, or park, in such a manner that the sound generated is plainly audible at a distance of 25 feet or more than 25 feet or more from the sound of the source. So what the law is saying is that if the police can hear your sound for more than 25 feet, you are illegal. Mind you, the Constitution give us freedom of speech. But the current law says we don't want to hear what you say. If it can be heard for more than 25 feet, you can be arrested. So, I believe the quietest place in the city ought to be in the residence where people go to sleep. So we're substituting this section here with the 25 feet with this section in chapter 39 that says, and I pass this out to each council member, it shall be unlawful for any person to play, use, operate, or permit to be played, use, or operate any radio, tape player, cassette player, compact disc player, or other machine or device for producing sound in or on any public property, including public streets, roads, buildings, sidewalks, or park, in such a manner that the sound generated exceeds at any private property line bordering or near the area in which the sound is being generated 85 decibels. This is coming straight from the residential noise ordinance. During the hours of 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. or 50 decibels during the hours of 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. In other words, instead of the police trying to measure the number of feet that they can hear your sound, 25 feet, they need a decibel meter to say if it's the daytime, if it's more than 85 decibels, you are too loud. If it's night and it's more than 50 decibels, you are too loud. It's the same decibels that we use for residential, in the residential section of this city.
I have a question.
Ms. Rich?
Thank you. What's the parameters of where you start hearing that decibel reading, because it is measured in residential areas. So,
From the source of the complaint?
okay, so
It's from the source
if
of the
someone is
complaint.
across from a sidewalk and that's less than 50 feet, they can complain, and then the decibel reader, the officer comes with a decibel reader, and if it's above that amount,
Then they either cut it off or get a ticket. It's from the, in residential noise, if I called at my house and said somebody's making noise and I believe it's too loud, they're not gonna go from the source, they're not gonna go back to the source of the sound. They're gonna measure the noise from my house, and they're gonna say, sir, it's not illegal based on decibel meter. That's what they're gonna say. So, first of all, you need a complaint. If somebody complaining, you go with the way to complain
right,
it.
but if you don't put parameters of how far that sound is traveling,
It's not in the residential, this coming straight out the residential noise ordinance. We don't need to put in it's not in the residential noise ordinance, what you're saying. But you're saying it's not in the, we can amend the residential noise ordinance. and
no,
put
there
it-
needs to be parameters to it, because that's how you know that it's making a noise that's disturbing. You know, who's complaining about it, how close is that noise infringing on them?
It doesn't matter how close they are, it's how loud it is based on the decibel meters.
Right, but you don't have any feet from which, especially in the downtown, more urban area where everything is packed in close. So I see where that could be a big problem.
Wow. It seems to me that if it works, the residential noise, the residential area of our city should be the quietest area in the city, not the business area. There's no business is going to make noise. You could go up on Spring Hill Avenue to L&M Tower, when they put that air wrench on, you could hear 5 blocks. Blah, blah, blah. That's not illegal. It is not illegal. You expect businesses to make noise. We're talking about using a residential noise ordinance in the business district, and we got a problem with that. So the only thing you can say then, I believe the businesses ought to make more noise than there are in the residential section, because this one says you can't make no more noise that's in the residential section. Is what it's saying.
But you don't have parameters on where that noise is going and who's disturbed by it. It just-
Don't nobody know where noise is going.
You-
The
you-
meter gonna tell you if it's over
So somebody
here.
across from the sidewalk could call the police, and if they hear it and it's over the 50 decibels in the evening, it has to be shut down.
Yes.
Almost like
I don't care where you're standing.
But the thing is, does this apply now to areas like if someone comes across from Medal of Honor Park? I'm not trying to make trouble, I'm just trying to make this work. And somebody is across the sidewalk and they don't like the sounds that are coming, it's disturbing to them. They call and a police responds and runs the decibel reader, they can shut down that activity. Is that what you're saying?
If it's more than 85 decibels in the daytime and 50 decibels at night. The way it is now at Medal of Honor Park, if the police can hit beyond 25 feet, they can shut it down. When they get to Medal of Honor Park, they don't want to hear nothing. I don't want to hear it the way it is now. Just regular talking, you can hear it, just regular talking more than 25 feet. Now, this has been on the books, but since the Black Lives Matter demonstrators moved downtown with their protests, then the police came out to measure how far they could hear it. And they told them, I'm taking you to jail and your equipment if I can hear you 25 feet. other words,
Mr.
I
President?
don't really want to hear nothing when it comes down to. This is, what we're substituting this with is what we use in any residence.
Yeah. Mr. President?
Ms. Gregory?
Yeah, we started out with looking at a specific group, giving them an exemption, and we changed it so that no groups are specified, that everybody has the same blanket decibel, noise, whatever
Amen.
ability. And what Ms. Rich and Mr. Richardson were talking about, yeah, they can make the noise and be shut down unless they get a waiver, a noise waiver. So no matter what, you're still going to have to get a waiver if you intend to go over this decibel reading.
That's right.
So it's still in there. So any group that is coming and planning to do anything, birthday party, peaceful rally, whatever it is, and you intend to go over the decibels, you're still going to have to get a permit or a
Amen.
waiver. So they need to understand that part of it.
That's true.
Of course, police are going to have to be vigilant in having a decibel reader and coming out and being able to measure from where the complaint was lodged. Now, there may be some issue with downtown. I don't know. That's what I think the mayor was referring to, and we'll have to hear from Mr. Woods at our regular meeting. But we changed it so that everybody would fall under the same guidelines. And again, if you intend to be louder than what these decibel readings are, then you still have to get a waiver of the noise ordinance, just like always.
That's right. And Mr. President, I would say this, that I don't know of an instance where a citizen called me and said that some group was making too much noise. And I called the police department, that they didn't show up with a decibel meter to measure sound. So they have the meters.
Any further discussion on this particular item? Madam City Clerk?
84021, approve issuance of general obligation refunding warrants, Series 2020. CIP resolutions held over. 21479, authorized contract with McElhaney Construction Company for street reconstruction for Little Flower Avenue. 13480, authorized change order number 1 with Youngblood Barrett Construction and Engineering for Dog River Park improvements, Phase 2 renovations, and new restrooms. Resolutions held over. 01481, authorized agreement with PC Specialists, doing business as Technology Integration Group, for computer network security, architecture, and configuration. 08042, approved purchase order to Sunbelt Fire for 185 pairs of firefighter boots. 21483, authorized contract with Tyndall Construction for Mobile Civic Center theater plaster repairs. 21484, authorized contract with Watermark Design for Fire Training Center Administrative Classroom Building Design. 46485, change the name of Lad Peebles Stadium to Lad Peebles Sports and Entertainment Complex. 6486, approved recommendation to sell East I-65 Service Road North property. 6487, request mayor to consider the possibility of providing supplemental bonuses and hazard pay to frontline city employees engaging in direct contact with the public during COVID-19 pandemic. Consent resolutions being introduced. 03489, reappoint and appointing Lavanis Fisher, Sabrina Mass, Brian Feuenmayer to the Human Relations Commission. 03490, reappoint Barbara Drummond to the Water and Sewer Board of Commissioners. 03491, appoint Damian Marks to the Police Citizens Community Relations Advisory Council. 21492, authorized contract with John G. Walton Construction to reconstruct infrastructure and complete a roundabout at the intersection of Broad Street and Canal Street. $2,094,407.17.
And I need to be listed as a sponsor on items of that nature, please.
Okay. 21493, authorized grant application to the Restore Act for implementation of Mobile area stormwater mapping and resiliency planning, no local match. 6494, approval water special bonus to the March 2020 Officer of the Month as part of the Mayor's Incentive Program, Colton Full Trail. 4495, approve award special bonus to the April 2020 Officer of the Month as part of the Mayor's Incentive Program, David Reyes. 6496, approve award special bonus to the May 2020 Officer of the Month as part of the Mayor's Incentive Program, Stephen Guidry. CIP resolutions being introduced, 01497, authorize agreement with the University of South Alabama for O'Shell Road Lighting Project. 21498, authorized contract with Mott McDonald Alabama LLC for 3 Mile Creek Greenway Trail. 57,000. 21499, authorized contract with Coast Pro Wash Corporation for Hope Community Center exterior tile surface restoration, $29,900. Resolutions being introduced, 01500, authorized agreement with Search Inc. for Mobile River National Register nomination project, $24,500. 08501, approved purchase order to Image Trend for annual renewal of software for the fire department, $155,031.25.
Mr. President,
Mr. Vice
can we
President?
get a little bit more information, going back up to 01-500, what is that exactly?
Ms. Beagle?
Ms. Bickle is here.
If you recall back in September of last year,
You can come on down, Ms. Beagle.
a resolution to
Ms. Beagle, come on down here, please.
You may recall last year in September, the council approved a resolution for the application of grant funds to the National Park Service for a nomination process. So essentially what this allows us to do, this contract is to hire a consulting firm that will help us prepare the National Register application so that we can recognize the 12 Mile Island area as well as the Clotilde as National Register districts and national landmarks. So it's just the application process where we have to bring on a consultant to get those areas highlighted for their historical significance.
Oh, okay. And you said this is for the Clotilda and the
12 Mile Island, the area where the Clotilde would have been founded, and there's several other ships wrecks that could potentially be in that area.
So what is, I mean, with it, the council approved this, what's the next steps? I mean, I know this is going to be a process, but I mean, can you tell us what the process is going to be and what our goal we're trying to aim for?
Right, so we will search as a consultant firm here with the Africatown Historic District. They will actually assist the city in preparing its application for that designation. So there's an application process so that you can highlight a particular area for its historical significance. So it's a lot of research, a lot of data collection, a lot of interviews with the community that all goes together in preparing that application.
Okay, so my question is, again, the long-term goal that we're aiming at, I mean, are we trying to get something like a, grand museum like Montgomery has the Lynch Museum? Or, I mean, are we trying to do something, is that the long-term goal in this right
Well,
here?
I would say the first step is to making sure that we're protecting the historical significance of this area. I think that it's the beginning of a process that allows us to do more things for the Africatown area. But from a historical preservation perspective, we want to make sure that this area is properly highlighted and protected from any other potential impacts that could disturb its historical significance. So I would say the long-term vision is for us to explore many opportunities that bring greater significance and highlight that area. But from a historical preservation perspective, coming out of our department, our first and foremost goal is to make sure that we're properly preserving these areas so that they cannot be disturbed and their historical integrity be compromised.
Okay. All right, thank you. I mean, and this is just my talking just in general. And we have a gold mine here in the Mobile area, and I mean, right here in our backyard. And I said this years ago. Matter of fact, I got crucified by one of my constituents by worrying about Plateau versus my area. But I mean, all this is inside the city of Mobile. It's just amazing how Montgomery Lynch Museum has just taken off. I mean, people travel, you know, countrywide just to come to Montgomery, Alabama. I know some people had left New York, came from New York in March, and they didn't even spend the night in Montgomery. They just came to see the Lynch Museum, went back to Atlanta to fly back to New York, because the Lynch Museum is what actually had caught their attention there. But with us having the Clotilda and the last known slave ship and the landing that we have down there at Plateau, we have a gold mine that can bring many tourisms into this area. And I won't, you know, I will always support, you know, anything that will go forth to bring more tourism into our area, to even highlight something that we have in our backyard where many people wish they did have in their backyard and everything. But thank you so much for the information.
Okay.
Mr. President,
Mr. Richardson?
it seems to me from reading what is before us that it's a few people actually know where the Clotilda went down at 12 Mile Island. And so if you want to go up there, you have to contact a few people who can tell us, navigate up there and said, it went down right here. When that project is finished, they're going to send their research to the U.S. Department of the Interior for them to place 12 Mile Island exactly where the Clotilda went down on the National Register of Historical Places as a national historical site, meaning can't nobody else mess with it. Then they're going to come back and anchor down a marker so Ray Charles or whoever go by there can see where the Clotilda went down. Now it's going to be up to us to take it further than that, but they're going to preserve that spot at 12 Mile Island and have the federal government to join us in anchoring down a marker at that place so we all know what went down.
Well said. If I could, this is Christine Dawson. She's our Deputy Director of Historic Development, so she'll be working with the consulting firm to lead this effort, but a significant component of it is the community engagement process. And so I'll be working with her closely and you to ensure that we have an all-encompassing process that ensures that all the appropriate data is collected.
Ms. Dawson, did you want to say anything? I noticed you, since you're standing there, I want to give you, yes, ma'am.
I don't have anything to add to what Shayla said. I think she covered it well.
That's fine.
But the National Register recognition does in fact bring, it brings national recognition of these sites to our community. It will bring people who are interested in the history, people who are interested in the personal stories of the folks who founded Africatown. And it will bring a certain level of protection to these sites so that we can learn from them and so that future generations can learn from them.
Thank you. And Madam City Clerk, I want to be listed as a matter of fact, anything dealing with District 2, if it's a nail, I want to be listed as a sponsor. As hard as I worked the last 6 years in the Africatown community, along with Mayor Stimson, then I certainly want to be listed as a sponsor on this initiative and any other initiative as it relates to a community in my district. Okay. Thank you all so much. Madam City Clerk.
08502, approve purchase order to AutoNation Ford Mobile for dump trucks, $53,180.50. 08503, approve item-based bid award for Elkhart Fire Equipment for fire equipment. 21504, authorized contract with SC Stagner Contracting for Lab People Stadium structural repairs, Phase 2, $1,016,000. 60505, approve recommendation to sell a vacant landlocked parcel off of O'Connor Street, District 1. Call for public hearings, 41506. Call for public hearing to rezone property at 2359 Dolphin Island Parkway, area bounded by Dolphin Island Parkway, Rosedale Road, and Rifles Road from R1 to B2, District 3, scheduled August 4th. 41507, call for public hearing to rezone property at 3154 Cottage Hill Road, north side of Cottage Hill Road, 100 feet east of Wyoming Drive West, from B1 to B2, District 5, scheduled August 4th. Announcements.
Any announcements from members of the council? Matt Stimson, any announcements from you or members of your administration? All right, we'll see each other at, well,
It's 10:30.
10:30.
Well, I need a break.
Well, we could take about, how much, how long you need? 10?
Yeah, that'd be nice.
Okay, we'll take a 10-minute break and then we will come on back.